Hey, what's going on, guys? Me, Mortimer here, and, yeah. This odd patch in the corner is being replaced with alright, but very disproportionate drawing of a 385 I did a few months ago. Anyways, this is my first Bus News episode I filmed in about a month, and there's quite a bit I've forgotten to cover, since roughly this time last month. So I'm just, hobbling a bunch of random stuff that's happened, into one video, so yeah. First of all, this coming Sunday, Edinburgh bus tours are going to be switching from their winter rotas to their summer rotas, which means that until July, the city sightseeing and Edinburgh tours are going up to every 12 minutes, and then through July and August, they're going to be every 10 minutes. And then, in the case of the Regal Tour, it's going to be every 15 minutes until roughly late October to early November. On top of this, there's going to be route changes to them again. It feels like they get their routes changed, like, every season now. I'll start with the city sightseeing tours. That's the one that hasn't been changed much at all. It is going to run from Waterloo Place direct down Princess Street to Lothian Road, not serving St Andrew's Square as the second stop. Down Lothian Road to East Fountain Bridge, then along the Grass Market and up Candlemakers Road to Bristow Square, and then going past the university through Nicholson Square, and then looping back on itself past the National Museum of Scotland on Chambers Street, then down George IV Bridge to Hanover Street, cut through, and then serve St Andrew's Square. And then it's then just going to run down briefly on Princes Street, then along North Bridge, and down the Royal Mile, quickly looping into Dynamic Earth, and then come back out. So, fairly dramatic route change if you're to get a current route to the new route. Tad different. With that being said, though, I do think it's the least changed out of all the tour buses. Next up, we've got the Edinburgh tour, which doubles back on itself at Waterloo Place about 2-3 times. So that's not great. It starts at Waterloo Place and then goes into St Andrew's Square before then looping back on itself past Waterloo Place, down past the Palace of Holyrood House, and then up the Royal Mile, down South Bridge and past the National Museum of Scotland, loop around the Bristow Place Triangle and down past the Grass Market. Instead of serving East Fountain Bridge, it just runs direct down Castle Terrace to Lothian Road, unlike what the city sightseeing tour just reversed. And then from Lothian Road, loop around Charlotte Square, down Queen Street, come down Frederick Street onto Prince Street, and then it'll just run down to Waterloo Place and turn around there. Personally, I don't really love this new route because of how much it doubles back on itself at the Waterloo Place stop. Like, per journey, it goes past the stance 3 times. Admittedly, on 2 of those times it's heading in the opposite direction, but that's still not an amazing route. Lastly, the Regal Tour, introduced roughly this time last year to replace the Majestic Tour. It's getting a fairly large reroute. So, from Waterloo Place, it's going to run basically directly past St Andrew's Square, not actually stopping at the stop, from what I can tell, down Queen Street to the west, to Randolph Crescent, loop round, and then over Dean Bridge, and past Orchard Bridge to Cumley Bank, after the Waitrose, sort of cutting through the wee side streets around Fettes College to the Royal Botanic Gardens, loop around, and then it'll go on to Inverleith Row, and then from Golden Acre, it'll basically be the same route as what it currently is, past Ocean Terminal and what have you, to the sort of South Leith area, where it's going to stay on Great Junction Street to the foot of Leith Walk, and then just run down Leith Walk, and then rejoin the current route at sort of Elm Row area, and then it's the same route to Waterloo Place. However, it is going to very briefly go past the Palace of Holyrood House in the same way that the Majestic Tour did. Overall, personally, this is kind of biased because I do like Stockbridge, but I'm kind of annoyed that the Regal Tour sort of diverts away from Stockbridge, but I suppose it would have taken a bit too long if they made it go into Stockbridge and then loop around to the Royal Botanic Gardens. Oh well, though. good route nonetheless. Sticking with Edinburgh bus tours, I just thought since it's been roughly a year since they started electrifying their tour buses, I thought I would just quickly go through and list off all of the tour buses that have been repowered into electric. Of course, roughly this time a year ago, bus 232 was electrified by Clean Drive. Now, there was a bit of a stagnant period after they did 232 where they didn't really do anything to any of the other buses. I think presumably because after 232 entered service again, it like caught fire quite soon after. Thankfully, it wasn't a major fire, but still, I think might have put them off wanting to use Clean Drive again. However, Wright Bus, who are the people who make all the tour buses that Edinburgh Bus Tours use, the Wright Bus Gemini 3s, they have a partnership with New Power, and they do a lot of electrification of vehicles with Wright Bus. So Lothian have opted for that. Out of all their tour buses, buses 221 through 250, bus 228, 238, 240, 241, and 242 have been electrified. Additionally, on the subject of the fleet, bus 250, which was in all white, has now been repainted into Edinburgh Bus Tours tartan, as they now have this cool, swanky tartan livery, which I think looks really cool. And whilst I'm sticking with Edinburgh Bus Tours, there's been some other wee cool fleet changes with just the Lothian group as a whole, so I thought I'll just briefly cover those. So first off, for Lothian fleet changes, out of all of the 66 play Wright Gemini 3-bodied Volvo B5 TLs, most of them have now moved over to Lothian country buses or are being repainted into the livery currently, with the only exception so far, if I'm looking at this correctly, are 450, 451, 453, 454, 458, 460, and 461. 464 and 465 are still in the Lothian livery. However, I do think for the time being, Lothian are going to keep their hands on them, just, I think, whilst they're waiting for the rest of the BZLs to enter service. And then, as for the buses that are in Skylink livery being repainted for East Coast buses, 499, I believe, has already been repainted, but has yet to get, like, vinyls and stuff. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I've heard. 497 entered service fairly recently, on the 113. Bus 510's been in service for almost 2 months at this point. And then the rest of the Skylink buses, so 498 and then bus 500 through 509, are still in service on Skylink. Though on the 200 and 400, I have noticed an awful lot of E400 MMC showing up on them. Now, whilst we're sticking with new buses for East Coast buses, bus 198 and also bus 197, which are both Wright Eclipse 2-bodied Volvo B7 RLEs, have both entered service with East Coast buses on the X7, X5, and 106. I believe 196 and 195 are staying with Lothian due to vehicle requirements in Edinburgh. However, I do think it's good that they're actually moving some of these over to East Lothian. And also, 198's super powerful. Like, I had it on the X5 a couple days ago, and it was a beast. And then if we swing back over to West Lothian with Lothian Country, out of the 10 Wright Gemini bodied Volvo B9TLs that they have, being the last B9TL original Geminis in the Lothian family, 4 of 10 have now officially left service, those being 841, 842, 844, and 845. And I believe the rest of them are to be leaving service before the service changes happening on Sunday. So if you want to give them a go, you've not got a hell of a lot of time left. Now, additionally, for movements of older buses on the Lothian fleet, Buses 929, 913, 931, and 933, which are Wright Gemini 2-bodied Volvo B90Ls, are supposedly moving from Lothian country to East Coast buses to help with, just because of the recent service changes. I think the peak vehicle requirement's gone up quite dramatically, so they're sending some deckers over from West Lothian into East Lothian, which is going to make it an awful lot harder for them to try and improve services in West Lothian, because aside from like the X19, most of West Lothian has just been completely snubbed bus-wise since the changes back in December 2023. And lastly, for the Lothian fleet stuff, I'm having a look just now, and it looks like all but roughly 15 of the Volvo BZL double-deckers have finally entered service. I've attached a list of all the BZLs that have yet to enter service, if you want to pause the video quickly. Okay, so next up, there's been a lot of stuff online in certain Facebook groups and whatever about a brand new Stagecoach service in Fife known as the 787. The registrations for the routes have come up on the UK government website. I'll have those linked in the description. There's two different links for the registrations, 1112 and 1111. Registration number PM, however many zeros, 4-1111, is Edinburgh Airport to Kinross Park and Ride via Hallbeath Park and Ride. The second registration is from Kinross Park and Ride to St Andrews via Cooper. So this is a brand new service. Both registrations, the number for them is the 787. And it's going to be a new service from Edinburgh Airport to St Andrews, like the registrations would imply, Hallbeath Park and Ride, Kinross Park and Ride, and Cooper. This is probably going to mean that there's a better early morning and late evening service through a lot of Northeast Fife, which I think plenty of people are going to be more than chuffed about. And if you look at the registrations, which, if you're curious, I will have them linked in the description, the date the registrations were received was the 24th of March, so as of the day this video releases, it'll have been a week ago. The date that the registrations are effective from, so basically when the 787 is going to enter service, is the 5th of May, so in a little over a month. And in quite a few Facebook groups, I've seen quite a few photos of some Plaxton Elite interdeckers that Stagecoach East Scotland have in the brand new Jet 787 livery. I'm going to be honest, this does not feel very well executed. Like, the white around the headlights makes it feel quite unevenly painted around the front, if that makes sense. I'm not the best at describing stuff, if you couldn't tell. And also, if you look at the sides, it's just very bland. I feel like they could have done the logo at the back a bit better. And I also think they could have maybe had a bit more room for branding to just flourish, but they're just keeping it all white, which I guess it's to sort of keep it in line with the Stagecoach Distance livery, which is what a lot of the intercity stuff Stagecoach does. That's the livery that those buses use, especially Express City Connect and Fife. But yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of empty space that could easily be worked with. I don't like how much white there is. Now, this is something I haven't heard as much discussion about. The fact that the effective date is the 5th of May. Another Edinburgh Airport service run by Stagecoach Fife is the 747, which is getting you Volvo BZL single-decker buses this year. Might Stagecoach's intention be to have those enter service on the 5th of May as well, and by proxy also have the BZL single-deckers intended for the 99 enter service that day as well? I mean, they did service changes for the 99 to make the timetable better for having electric buses on the 24th of March, which I covered in the last episode of Bus News. But the electric buses didn't enter service then, and they've also not entered service on the 747 yet. So I'm fairly certain that now, if you want to see the electric buses enter service, the 5th of May is probably the date to keep your eyes on. Now, my last point of discussion for this video is a brand new service that actually entered service today as of filming this. It's just I've completely forgotten to discuss it at all. A brand new bus service by Midlothian Council, of all people. It's a new service running Monday to Friday, 2 return journeys Monday to Thursday and 1 on Fridays. New service 800 goes from Pathhead to Pennycook. Definitely seems a bit random, but the route it takes sort of explains a lot. Pathhead, then via Vogrie, Gorebridge, Gowks Hill, Newton Grange, direct up to Dalkeith, Eskbank Tesco, Midlothian Community Hospital, Lass Wade, Lonehead, Strayton Retail Park, Bilston, Auchendenny, and Pennycook. First of all, absolutely brilliant that Auchendenny are finally getting a bus service. It's only been, like, what, 8 years since they last had a bus? There's still definitely some work to do, though. I do think there's probably a lot of people who are kind of a bit annoyed that it's 9 journeys either way through Auchendenny, so doesn't give people a lot of opportunity to go up into Pennycook and do their shopping or whatever. So yeah, the first departure is from Pathhead at 9 AM. Okay, yeah, no, this video is already over 16 minutes long. We don't have time for this. I'll just link the timetable in the description for those curious. Overall, personally, I'm not a fan of how similar it is to the 140 and 141 routes, but it doesn't take a genius to work out that's not the intention of this bus route. This bus is to give, like, Auchendenny a link to Strayton Retail Park and Pennycook and what have you. And it also provides better links between Newton Grange and Dalkeith. But anyways, that's all I've managed to scour for this video. If I've missed out on something, please let me know. I'm already late enough to stuff such as the 800. So yeah, it'd be good to actually try and keep on top of a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna leave this there for today. I'm gonna get to editing this. I have a little over a day to get this edited and put out on YouTube. So yeah, till next time, adios.